It is not a joke. It is not a drill. It is already April Fool's Day. April has arrived. Welcome back. It's Wake Up with Damon and Larry. Great to see you. Larry, hope you had a good Easter weekend.
I did. We went to my brother's. We had a nice, nice, whatever you call lunch/dinner. It was a good time, and we're back here in the creek, ready to roll out some more content throughout the week. Looking forward to it.
Well, look, man, it's going to be a big week because obviously draft month is officially here. It is April. Baseball's opening week has happened. We're in the final throes of an NBA regular season. We got ourselves a Final Four set. We got a Masters coming soon. And you blink twice, we're going to have a Summer Olympics. Like, we're about to buckle up and have a really good run on sports here. So welcome, everyone. It's great to have you here. Please hit like and subscribe. Larry and I are now bringing you Wake Up 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, starting around 8:30. And we're never going to waste your time. We're never going to drag you through a whole bunch of stuff you don't need. We want to get you in and out and make this show easy to fit into your daily schedule. So, Larry, as always, we start with the 49ers, and depending on whose column you're reading is how, close to or further away from a deal the 49ers are with Brandon Ayuk. It seems like this pendulum can't decide which way it wants to swing right now. On Friday, I'm reading articles like, hey, it's getting closer. It's actually going to be happening. It seems to be both sides are cooling off and they want to get a deal done. And then you see like a Mike Garofalo piece saying, well, actually, they're further apart than you could imagine. And it's not going very smoothly. And I really don't know what or who to believe right now on the Brandon Ayuk contract situation.
Well, I mean, there's things that you can look at. I mean, Garofalo, he's got his sources, and I'm sure the NFL Network is good, as far as their sources. I would never question their media skills or anything else. But the thing that stuck out to me was that Ayuk is practicing at the facility, or at least working out at the facility. If you were really in a heavily acrimonious situation where, man, you didn't want to be there, they didn't want you there, or you wanted to be there, but they weren't throwing anything close to the dollar figure, and you didn't think it was getting done, wouldn't you work out somewhere else on your own? Instead, he's there at the facility working out, trying to get ready. So I think Ayuk is all about winning championships. I think he's really very much a team-oriented guy, but he wants to get paid. He wants to get broken off here. I think the Niners are tough negotiators, Parag especially. He's their chief negotiator, and when they pick a number, they stick to it. And they've done some harsh things. I mean, we just saw it last week with offering Eric Armstead $6 million. I mean, that's just like a gigantic flip the bird, get the hell out of here kind of an offer. So I don't know how things are going, but my guess, if you said to me, make a guess on how this is going to go, I would guess that the Niners will sign Ayuk to an extension. They will draft, much higher than any of us expect, a wide receiver. And then they will go through this year, and in the spring of next year, they will trade Deebo Samuel for whatever they can get. And if it's a fifth, it's a fifth. If it's a fourth, it's a fourth, whatever it's going to be. That would be my guess going into this year, is that they re-sign Ayuk, draft a wide receiver, maybe a Malachi Corley, somebody who kind of fits the same description of a Deebo, maybe a Xavier Legette, who's 230 pounds and even faster than Deebo. But I think they'll draft some bulky, physical, dominating wide receiver and then trade Deebo in the spring of 2025.
Well, that conversation about Brandon Ayuk just turned into something different. Why do you think Deebo is falling out of favor, if that's the way we're looking at this?
I don't think he's falling out of favor. I just think that, realistically, it's a hard cap, and you can have $60 million tied up long-term in wide receivers when you're trying to sign your quarterback who had been playing for $1 million for $25 million. I just don't think the numbers work. I think Deebo's body only probably has, if you ask me, I would say 3 years of really good football left, and then a precipitous decline. I think they're aware of that. I think Shanahan loves Deebo Samuel, but it's really just about, you know, you can't have everything in your cart as you're approaching the checkout. You know, you gotta thin down the cart somehow, some way. They did it a little bit this year with Armstead. They'll probably continue to do it with their offensive line by drafting guys and getting rid of the Jake Brendels of the world. But also, I could see them doing it by lopping off Debo, because he does make a sizable amount of money. I mean, let's be honest. If you're going to pay Brock 25 or 30 or 40 or 45, which is kind of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Somebody who's making, 20 or 30 is going to have to probably come off the books, and that's probably going to be Debo. That would be my guess.
So one of the things that you and I were talking about right before we came on was that Colin Cowherd is already, going doom and gloom about how the 49ers will look once Brock Purdy is making a attention grabbing level of salary that normally comes with a starting NFL quarterback, that they'll be the brand new Dallas Cowboys once again. And, look, it's an easy talking point. It's a great little headline. Feels like you take two rivals, you attach them together, you piss off two fan bases all at once, and blah, blah, blah. Like, Cowherd's really good at what he does. But I don't think that that's a very good analogy at all, because the Cowboys have no real postseason success to even point at and say, we did this. I don't think anyone would necessarily describe them as well-built. And that is not a situation or world that the 49ers live in. A lot of people admire the way the 49ers have gone about building this team and this roster. And I don't know. That feels like a little attention grabby, even for Colin Cowherd. But he is right. Keeping everything and the Ducks as you know them in a row will be impossible once Brock Purdy is in a $40 million figure. And that does bring us to then tough choices on a guy like Deebo Samuel.
I mean, I think to analyze the Niners and Cowboys that, in that kind of a linear way, I think is laughable. The Niners have a working personnel department that doesn't include Jed or, Parag just saying, hey, we want that guy. That's where the Cowboys are at. That's why the Cowboys are having problems. It's not. Yeah, I mean, are the Niners going to have to be really good in their decision-making? Absolutely. Are they going to have to hit on some day three guys? Yeah. Are they going to have to maybe hit on an undrafted guy? Sure. Is it going to be tougher to maintain a dominant roster with a 25 or 35 or $45 million quarterback as opposed to $1 million quarterback? Anybody could see that. But the Cowboys' issues go so far beyond that.
Right.
And the Cowboys have credible scouts, but they're sitting there and Jerry and his son are making the final call. So, and as you would expect, it's going the way you would expect it to go, in that they hit on one, Micah Parsons, then they miss on two, Mozzie Smith and other guys, and they hit on one, then they miss on two or three. And they hit on, so I think their hit rate is far lower than the Niners. And I think that if the Niners hit rate drops into the Dallas neighborhood where they're hitting on one of every 4 picks, yeah, then they're Dallas. But that's going to make them Dallas more than Brock Purdy's contract, I think.
Well, and the truth is, if you think Brock Purdy might be better than Dak Prescott, that's a game changer too. And I think Dak Prescott is, America's favorite decent quarterback to just dump on. I guess that comes with the territory when you're the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. Hell, it comes with the territory when you're the Niners quarterback. There are a few of these positions that, even though they're all starting quarterbacks, they do outrank one another. And 49ers starting quarterback, Cowboys starting quarterback comes with a whole lot more attention than Tennessee Titans starting quarterback, Houston Texans starting quarterback, Las Vegas Raiders starting quarterback. It's just the way it is. So, yeah, I mean, there's always people trying to whip everyone into a frenzy about anything that could be happening about, the 49ers, who, again, there's so much panic and talk about, well, all this that they need to do, and they need to get much deeper, and they need to do this and this free agency. Like, you would think that this team was far away from a Super Bowl last year. right? I mean, based on all of the problems that some people want to say that this team needs to address in its offseason. Look, you'd like to get a little bit deeper. You'd like to get a better right tackle. And outside of that, I mean, the list of needs isn't this laundry list, isn't a Best Buy receipt of all the stuff that the 49ers need. They were in overtime in the Super Bowl. They're pretty good as they come rolling into this year. And I know that the thumbnail today is talking about depth, right? And we're talking about what you want to get deeper at. What position groups would you like to see fluffed in this upcoming draft? And there's a picture of what a Fred Warner right there. And it kind of made me wonder because, you know, I'm pretty high on D. Winters and Jalen Graham, Larry, and I know that you are too. You know, isn't the linebacker that you might think they need to draft to get deeper already on this team, but we just didn't see them much last year because they weren't played?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I loved what I saw from Jalen Graham in the preseason, but you know what? It would have been nice to have seen him play, I don't know, a down or two in the regular season. And I don't know what D. Winters is. He shot gaps at TCU and looked good in the national semi, but I don't know. I don't know how good he is. So, if those guys are awesome, yeah, then you don't need a linebacker. But if those guys are just okay, or if they're special teamers, then you most certainly do, because Greenlaw's out for the year. And I don't know about the guy they signed from Green Bay, and Flanagan Fowles is a special teamer. So that's part of the discussion. It's like, how I love Jalen Graham. I think he's terrific, but he didn't get on the field much last year. So I would say that linebacker is still a need. It's just not a primary need.
Corner, D-line, O-line, those are the three areas that stand out to me. Anything else feels like, now you're just getting some frosting for that. A little frosting for the wide receiver room, a little frosting maybe for the running back room. And this is a team that didn't, use an awful lot of the frosting that it had last year. I mean, Kyle and company, basically, they find a few guys that they want to play, and they play them to death. This isn't a team that has operated very deep in its depth chart beyond a rotating defensive line. They do kind of stick with their starters throughout an entire game.
I mean, I think there's areas on this team that, if you look closely, they do need help. I mean, obviously, right tackle. I mean, the future of your right side of your offensive line. Who's your future center? Do you have him? No. Who's your future right guard? Do you have him? No. Who's your future right tackle? Do you have him? No. So I would say the right side of the offensive line, from the center to the right, is a primary need. Wide receiver, only because you're in this weird financial situation with Debo and Ayuk and JJ and your cap and your quarterback. You could use a real dynamic wide receiver just simply because you can't afford to pay the guys you have. Defensive tackle, if you could find just an absolute stalwart, would be great. One more edge rusher would be nice. One more linebacker would be nice. To me, the other big needs are, they have a real severe need at safety. I don't think people are really understanding how severe that need really is, because, I mean, if you look at their safety depth chart, you got Afonga coming off an injury, and he was injured much of the time at SC. And then you have Jair Brown, who's probably more of a strong safety, but he's forced to play free safety. Then you have George Odom, who's a great special teamer, but nothing more. And then you have Eric Harris and Taylor Hawkins, who are, great guys, but not starters. So you don't really have a young up and coming player at that position. And it's safety. Guys hurl their bodies around. There's all kinds of injuries. This is a spot where you need depth, and they have none. So I would say safety is a primary spot, even though we're not talking a lot about it. And then they have good depth at corner, but I think they're looking for that one dominant corner that could be paired with Lenore and with Mooney Ward to really impact things. So I would say the secondary is a little bit more of a need than people think. And that offensive line for sure. And then tight end. I mean, I don't think Cam Latu can play. As of today, he can't play. Braden Willis, as of today, I don't know that he's a starting NFL tight end. Then you have Jake Tungs from Cal. he's most definitely not a starting tight end. You lost Charlie Warner. You're probably going to lose Ross Dwelly. Kittle is 30, going on 31. So to me, tight end and safety are the two needs on this team that nobody really talks that much about because you've got Brown and Afonga and Kittle, but in reality, they're paper thin there, and they need reinforcements.
Well, like and subscribe, my good friends. We got you with all the Niners news that you need, and we do have a little Niner news over the weekend that is trying to address that tight end room a little bit here. The 49ers have started the process of signing new tight end over the weekend. His name is Brock Wright. They have offered a 3-year, $12 million offer sheet that features $6 million in guaranteed money, and he is a Detroit Lion. The Lions did not have a second-round tender on him, so to sign him would cost the 49ers no compensatory pick going back to Detroit. And Matt Mayoko has basically said the 49ers aren't trying to, gamesmanship a price point of a player for another team just to screw up another team's books. This is a player that they actually do want to go ahead and sign. This isn't one of those we dare you to match this Detroit type of offers, but he's a Golden Domer. Brock Wright played in 14 games last season, only 1 touchdown. He started 19 of 41 games he's appeared in over his first 3 seasons, all with the Lions. But there could be a name coming, Larry. Brock Wright. Get your Brocks together. Brock to Brock connection. What do you think of Brock Wright? I don't know much about him. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert.
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple things. One, that's no lock that he's a Niner. I mean, it's a price point that's very reasonable. The Niners offered him a $2.98 million contract. Detroit has right of first refusal. They have until Wednesday to match. A lot of people feel like they're just going to match. But they also have Sam Laporta and other needs and a couple other tight ends on the roster. So maybe they don't match. As far as this player, it's interesting. It's like everybody looks at different stats and says, oh, this is a blocker, but I don't know that this guy is an inline blocker. To me, this guy is more of a receiver. He went to high school in Cypress, Texas, went to Notre Dame, 48 games, 11 starts, only had the 1 touchdown there, but he also played H-back and fullback at Notre Dame. He's 25, he's 6'5", 250. He's got 10-inch hands, which is great. 4.66 on the 40, which is definitely passable. 26 reps of 225, which does tell you he probably is strong enough to be an inline blocker. 3 years in Detroit, 36 receptions, 6 touchdowns. Kind of a lot of touchdowns, actually.
Look at you, Larry. It's like you got everything but a centerfold in front of you right now.
I know. Well, I did a video on this last week. Ian Rappaport basically had the initial report, and the Niners will not be owed a pick, or will not owe Detroit a pick if Detroit does not match. So it's a kind of a carefree offer. There's no harm. I like Notre Dame players for the most part because I feel like they achieve to their talent level. This guy's a little stiff for sure, but he's got good size and he's got big hands, and I think he could be a decent player. I mean, the Niners need to replace Dwelly. To me, Damon, the Niners need a veteran tight end. We talked about Robert Tonyan last week.
Yep.
And maybe Brock Wright is that cheaper version of the veteran tight end, a cheaper version of Tonyan. And then they need a big-time tight end in the draft, or at least a tight end that they feel like can potentially be big-time. So I think, this makes sense. And I would expect them to sign a safety and a tight end before the draft in 3 weeks or so. So that's kind of what I'm expecting. And I don't know tons about this player. Nobody really does because he hasn't played a lot. But I do like the profile, the physical profile. I do like the cost. I do like the fact that he's the one thing about the Niner tight end position is you better be smart. Because there's lots of shifts, lots of motions, lots of, yeah, it's all this way except for this, and that. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of variables that you got to crunch in a short amount of time. And I think that more than anything is the reason that Cam Latu has looked so bad, is that I just think that he was overwhelmed mentally last summer
That's what
by
I
what
mean.
he was facing.
I remember as a training camp, and you were just saying this guy's in his head. You can just see the way he's like looking at the tips of his cleats after every play. He's trying to remember something that he just didn't remember. Now he's got a coach yelling at him. And now he's got a player coaching him up. And it seemed too fast and too big.
Well, and if you said, give me a list of 4 or 5 guys that were in camp last summer, but are going to be way, way, way better in camp this summer, I'm putting Latu at the top of that list because of this reason. He just looked overwhelmed. And now he's had a full season to learn the playbook, learn all the shifts, learn all the motions, learn all the special things that they're asking him to do. And I think he's gonna fire. I think Latu is going to be one of the most improved players of the summer when they convene in July.
Well, you were just saying that you didn't really believe, though. So, I mean,
no, but I mean, I logic tells me he's going to be hugely important. I don't believe in the level of he's your number 2 tight end going into camp and you don't need somebody else. Like, I don't think Jake Tongues and Braden Willis are necessarily the guys. Willis seems to me to be like the wrong body type for tight end. Tongues is not an NFL starter in my opinion. So they need a veteran tight end, and they also could use a rookie tight end with some upside. Maybe Latu is that veteran that rookie tight end with upside, just 1 year delayed. But I like Latu, but I wouldn't bet my season on it.
Well, I really believe in players getting better, an improvement in off seasons, playing, vital roles in any team's projections. And when you just ask me, like, what is the most important thing for the 49ers right now? Nailing draft picks or just Brock Purdy having that off season that brings him even a bigger step forward than he was in year 2? Like that right there, Brock Purdy having a massive off season, I think is a good way to get over some of the blocking concerns that you might have had in front of him. Just a speedier, more athletic, more ready to go, not being surprised by anything. Brock Purdy is a more dangerous 49er team just right there. There's an awful lot of improvement that you'd like to see along this offensive line. To me, Spencer Burford just busting his rump going into year 3 here is probably going to be a better football player than anyone that they just draft and hope to throw in there, unless you really do ring that bell and you found a nice big pile of money late in that first round and you do have a ready to play day 1 offensive lineman, which is a tough thing in this league. It really is. So, I know that you and I have, in past philosophical arguments with other content creators about Brock Purdy, just, they didn't leave any room for improvement. I'm leaving room for improvement for a lot of these guys, including Colton McKivitz, Spencer Burford, and the, players du jour that fans love to sit around and say aren't good enough, yet in their efforts last year had them a heartbeat away from a Super Bowl. So they're not, even if they're bad, they ain't that bad based on what we just saw.
Well, I mean, this is a perfect opportunity to build your fortress for Brock Purdy, to support your quarterback. I mean, teams do this all the time. They take Trevor Lawrence and then they take a wide receiver or an offensive tackle, or they take a top tier, player or two, or top tier quarterback. They find their guy and then they support him. Well, whether it was the first pick or the last pick, there's no question. I mean, you have to support this guy. How do you best support Brock Purdy? I think you best support him by finding another receiver who can, another weapon, receiver or running back, that can be dynamic in the short range, whether it be a running back or a tight end or a receiver that catches short and runs long, and then build him a fortress offensive line wise. I mean, operating behind a street free agent center, street free agent, veteran free agent. Anybody could have had him guard in Feliciano. If you're going with Burford, he's a 4th-round pick. If you're going with McKivitz, he's a 5th-round pick. I mean, build out your line. I mean, I think if you said number one thing, get more help on the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. You gotta find a good edge rusher. You got to find a good tackle on defense. On offense, you got to find a center, a guard, and a tackle that you really believe are the future. And if you do that, man, the Niners are going to be sitting chilly for, the next 5 years, because you're right. Their quarterback is going to get better. And how's he going to get better? He's going to get better because his body's going to get stronger. He's going to get quicker, faster, more sudden, more explosive, more knowledgeable. All those things benefit Purdy, but it's time to kind of build the thing up around Brock, like many, many teams do.
Like, subscribe, notify, memberships available. Damon Bruce Plus, The Krug Show. Thank you so much for watching this morning. We really appreciate it. Obviously, you're about to get into one of your happy spots, Larry. I know you love the NFL draft probably as much as anybody out there. And as we get closer and closer, I'm sure are going to continue to zero in without getting too granular. What are you thinking about in this draft right now? Where is your attention as you're looking for second, day 2, maybe day 3 draft picks? Just a little thumbnail sketch before we kind of look back at baseball's opening weekend and pretty decent weekend for the NCAA tournament. So just final thoughts on the Niners as we kind of had a slow news week for them.
Well, I mean, now I start to go and look real close at the guys that they have brought in and potential sleepers. And by the way, so just so everybody knows, the Niners have a 1st-round pick. They have a 2nd-round pick. They have a 3rd-round pick. They have 3 picks in the 4th round. 1 for Trey Lance, 1 is a comp pick, and 1 is their own. So they have not not multiple 2s. A 1, a 2, a 3, 3 4s, a 5, 2 6s, and a 7. I was just looking at a couple of their guys this weekend that they brought in for visits that are really kind of impressive when you watch them. One is safety / linebacker Jamal Hill from Oregon. Damon, you got to go watch this guy. I'm going to do a video on this guy today. I mean, this guy's a thumper. I mean, this guy's a hitter. I don't know if he's a linebacker, an undersized linebacker, if he's a special team linebacker, or if he's, going to grow into linebacker, or if he's going to potentially be able to play strong safety in this defense. But Jamal Hill from Oregon is just a monster. And they brought him in, and I'm looking at where he's ranked, and he's not ranked very high as far as like, this may be a day 3 pick. It's definitely will be a day 3 pick, but I mean, it might be an undrafted guy. But Jamal Hill, really, really impressive to me. The other guy that I watched this weekend that I really liked is Javon Baker, who's a wide receiver from Central Florida. Javon Baker, I guess, was at the Big 12 Pro Day, and they visited with him, and he's impressive. I mean, you're talking about doesn't run an incredible 40 times, so maybe the scouts are going to miss him. We're like a 4.54, but middle of the draft, I mean, Javon Baker could be a very, very good get as a receiver. I mean, the guy runs routes. He's got hands. He's got ability to kind of run away. So that guy really stood out. And then the other guy is Sione Vaki, safety from Utah. I said before the Niners are going to be looking for safeties, and they met with Vaki. And Vaki's like a part-time safety, part-time running back. And he's just really an intriguing football player. I mean, he's just a very active. You can tell he's a playmaker.
Sounds like someone who could help with like new hybrid kickoffs and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, and then you kind of wonder about that whole thing. The rule changes. Like, the Niners sent a big contingent to Western Kentucky to watch Malachi Corley. Well, Corley's thought to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick, but in a lot of ways, if you factor in these new rules, he might be a ideal guy to have. So those are the guys that kind of I've been standing out to me. I mean, really, this Oregon kid Jamal Hill, just from when you watch him, you're like, whoa, this guy is a big time hitter. This guy can move. There's some nasty there. I love me some Jamal Hill, and I'm just kind of wondering, now it's like, okay, the Niners always are good on day 3 of the draft, and they're always good after the draft. Are they targeting a couple of these guys after the draft? I think it's going to be a fun month to watch, because they always, any scouting department's going to find some diamond in the rough that they love, and a lot of times they want to meet with those guys, get a closer look, and Jamal Hill from Oregon might be on the top of that list.
All right. So everyone's got a homework assignment. Jamal Hill, get your film study up and be ready. We will we'll see everyone turn in their assignment on Wednesday morning at 8:30 when Larry and I are back at it again here on Wake Up. So couldn't help but notice the Bay Area's long list of failed high priority draft picks gets another name added to it, Larry. Obviously, the Warriors with James Wiseman, Trey Lance with the San Francisco 49ers did not work out, but at least those players upon their departure returned something. Joey Bart washes out of the San Francisco Giants organization with a return of absolutely nothing. They didn't have the foresight to basically look at this guy, evaluate, it ain't going to be him, and then use him as a sweetener, as a trade sprinkle. Even though it hasn't been a success, he still had name value, being the second overall pick of the 2018 draft. And they didn't even figure out a way to get a little value out of him on the way out the door. He gets DFA'd so Dalton Jeffries can get a start in San Diego that was just awful. I mean, he couldn't have had a worse outing in 3 innings. He gave up 9 runs, for goodness sakes. And the fact that Joey Bart had to die so we could see a game of Dalton Jeffries is just kind of the status of the Giants farm system in a little snapshot of it, don't you think?
Well, it's revealing. It shows the way prospects are treated when they're not your guy. I mean, Bart was a Sabian guy. I guarantee you, Farhan would treat his own guy a little bit differently. He's eligible to be traded for the next week, so he still could be traded. It's not for sure that he'll be waived. I think personally he will be traded, to be honest, Damon. Why? Because he's a catcher. And it's hard to find catchers,
right.
And
there's
hard
some value there. There's something
there. There's some value. If you said to me, what do you think's going to happen? I think he's going to get traded. I think he's going to get traded to the A's. I think he'll be an Oakland A, or a Vegas A, or whatever you want to call the A's. He'll be an A. If the Giants can't find a trade partner, he would be placed on unconditional release waivers. And then he's a absolute lock to be claimed off waivers. Somebody's going to claim him off waivers. Why? Because he's 27. He's got bat speed. He was the second pick in the draft. His catch and throw is very impressive. He doesn't have any options remaining, so he can't be sent to the minors without being placed on waivers again. He was texting, I guess he said, just wish the best for my teammates and excited for a new opportunity. So, I've talked to him before. He's a good kid. I kind of wonder about his focus.
He doesn't have an awful lot of people telling you how much of a hard worker he is. That's for sure.
Well, I question kind of the focus of the player, because I've seen him crossed up at least a half dozen times. You'd see Buster Posey crossed up like once or twice a year. This guy's getting crossed up like once or twice a game. So I kind of wonder, does he forget? Does he call the pitch and forget it? Does he, is his mind in a different spot? Some of his framing looks kind of rough to me. I don't love the way he sits on the one knee. It's this guy's, at the same time, I'm not at all confident to say that, oh, yeah, he's a bust. I've seen a lot of Giants fans in a lot of these chats going, oh, Bart's a bust. He sucks. All right, let's move on from him. No, you're an idiot and you don't know baseball. And Matt Williams, it came up in 80, he was an 86 draft choice. He was in the majors in 87. And then but he actually wasn't a full major leaguer and really rolling until like 94. So, I mean, it takes time. It's a really hard game. It takes time to bust through. You don't just bust through and all of a sudden you're just badass. It's like, some guys can do that, but not everybody. So this guy's been up, he's been down, he's been up, he's been down. We've seen some improvements. The bottom line is we're always told about his improvements, and then he strikes out at a really high rate. And
Right.
you just can't do that. You can't strike out at a really high rate. Now, Melvin is a former catcher, so maybe he has a better evaluation of Bart. But Bart was the final first round pick of the last regime, and Bailey was the first round pick of the new regime. If Bailey were struggling this like this, would Farhan jettison him as quick? I would say not. I would say not. I would say Farhan's going to be far more protective over Bailey, but Bailey's shown more.
Yeah, Bailey's an actual. He's already had twice the career of Joey Bart behind the plate and just at the plate too. So I look, sometimes it doesn't work out, but just to have that much value in hoopla put into a player, fast track him, kind of put him in a bad situation because Posey exits stage left a year earlier than you thought he would. And it's like, the pandemic and just a confluence of not working out with really many of the prospects that are coming through the Giants system. I mean, it's their farm system is the problem. More than any ability to sign a free agent or anything, their farm system has been the big letdown of the Farhan era so far. There's no doubt about it. And obviously, Joey Bart, looking like he's going to exit stage left here, is not going to be another feather in the cap of high-value draft picks here in the Bay Area, which there have been some massive swings and misses on. I will say this, they split a season opening series down in San Diego. Jung-Hoo Lee hits his first major league home run in front of his dad. That was cool. He looks a little more hitterish than maybe we had feared there, Larry. He looks okay. Matt Chapman has started the year off right. Already got 6 RBI. Conforto's hitting 400 with a couple of bombs. So there is some life in the Giants lineup. But, man, thank God that they signed Blake Snell. We haven't even seen him yet. But they're already, like, not even one turn through their rotation, having to get an emergency start out of Dalton Jeffries. And, like, to be this kind of like, figuring out your rotation before you've even gone through your rotation once. Like, thank God that they signed Blake Snell, because they seem thin in that regard, even with him.
Well, I mean, they've got a lot of pitchers coming, though. You got Alex Cobb, you got Robbie Ray, you got Carson Wisenhunt, just had a really nice 3-inning shutout performance with a bunch of Ks in the minors. He's nasty. I mean, I think starting pitching-wise, the Giants actually look okay. I mean, Jeffries got hit around for sure, but the Padres were going to fire on Sunday. The nice opening weekend. I think let's just not overreact to an opening weekend. I mean, it's like the Giants split a series in San Diego. Good for them. Bailey, to me, looked good. Tom Murphy's bat looks live. Nick Ahmed, I think they made the right call on, between Crawford and Nick Ahmed. I think they made the right call.
I'll tell you, he makes some nice plays out there early on.
Yeah, I mean, and he looks healthier than Crawford, and his body looks a little younger than Crawford. Chapman, if he hits, is going to be a phenomenal player because he's just an instructional video on how to play third base. Flores went flying into the dugout yesterday, so we don't know what his situation is for tonight or going forward. But he looked like he was in a lot of pain. And then Conforto. I mean, Conforto's ripping. I mean, so right now, Conforto looks amazing to me. Jorge Soler is yet to wake up. As far as Jung-Hoo Lee, I thought yesterday might have been his best, most impressive game from the standpoint of 3 walks. I mean, the guy knows the zone, and that's the thing that when you watch him, you're like, wow, this guy really commands the strike zone. Now, all these people jumping up and down, yelling, "Krug, you hated him, and I'm waiting for you to backtrack." It's like, dude, go look at what I said. What I said.
Jung Hoo Lee an apology, Larry.
Yeah. Look what I actually said, which is they're paying him $19 million a year. The Giants are paying Jung Hoo Lee what the Astros are paying Yordan Alvarez. The Giants are paying Jung Hoo Lee what the D-backs are paying Corbin Carroll. All I'm saying is $19 million a year for a guy coming out of the KBO is a major risk.
It is.
That's a major risk. They're paying him huge, huge money. Now, opening weekend, there were several things I liked about him. I like the way he tracks balls in the outfield. I like the way he takes pitches. I like the way, he puts everything into his swing. I asked Marty Lurie a couple of weeks ago. I said, "What do you think this kid's going to hit?" Because in my mind, if you're paying them $19 million, he's got to hit like 285, 290, which is where he's at right now. He's hitting 286 with the home run. And Marty's like, "Yeah, I think he's going to hit 255." Now, Marty, I did hear this weekend say, I'm very impressed by Jung Hoo. So maybe Marty, thinks it's going to be higher. But
and here's the thing:
if this kid hits 265, well, forget 255. Let's say he hits 265, 275. That's not worth $19 million a year.
No, but Larry, 260 is the new 285. I mean, it really is.
I guess
around baseball, it really is. So, I don't know if that's a compliment or an excuse, but it really. I mean, just batting averages ain't what they used to be when we were kids. We know that.
I mean, there's several things to like. I mean, he knows the strike zone. I don't know how many bases he's going to steal, but he seems to have a confidence about him that's really great, and I'm sure he does. He was the MVP of his league last year. Why would he not come in confident? But let's just all pump the brakes on Jung Hoo Lee, saying Jung Hoo Lee is this or that. Let's just pump the brakes and see what it looks like. I would say you need at least 6 weeks. Touch base with me. It's April 1st. On May 15th. On May 15th, let's take a look at where Jung Hoo Lee is and make an evaluation. I need for 6 years guaranteed at where he's making huge bucks. He's making $19 million a year for 6 years guaranteed. I need a guy who can play center field, lead off, hit about 290, and score a ton of runs and be the ignition. If he's that guy, awesome. And I'm a hardcore Giants fan. I want to see them. I want to see him succeed. I'm rooting for my opinion to be wrong, because I'm more of a Giants fan than I care about, being right. I don't need to be right. I want to see the team win, and anybody who knows me knows that. So we'll see. So far, so good. Opening weekend, I thought he had a presence about him, and I liked what I saw at the plate. Most specifically, man, the guy, you can throw a pitch like right off the corner, and he just doesn't even flinch. He's just like, yeah, fine. There you go. I'm taking that.
Get some plate discipline. It looks like he's got a little bit of it. Again, decent opening weekend in San Diego, and now it's Giants and Dodgers that gets going tonight from Chavez Ravine. So we'll take a look at that. And look, it's way too early in the baseball year to try to define anyone. We haven't seen enough. And we're way too late in a basketball season to still not know an awful lot about a team. But I feel that this is where we are on the Golden State Warriors, because they really are. Larry, they're a freaking adventure. One day they look like they're ready to just tap out and walk away from any notion of competition this season. And in other games, you get a war daddy Draymond Green level effort that makes you start saying things like, they could maybe, upset somebody here in the first round, or I mean, it depends on what Warriors you see. And, they just beat a depleted San Antonio team last night that was missing about 50 points from its lineup, but it was still a win on the road for the Warriors, and you can't complain about those anymore. Just getting wins is all they're looking for, and they are now 6 games over 500 with a 4-1 road trip that they just had. Draymond was fantastic in San Antonio. Curry, he had 33. They're 2 games up on Houston thanks to Luka and the Mavs, who beat the surging Rockets on Sunday. And now the next 3 games are huge for the Warriors. They've got Luka and the Mavs on Tuesday night. Then they're at Houston, then at the Mavericks again. So they've got, a couple of pretty good teams in front of them, one team that they're trying to hold off. This is going to be an interesting weekend an interesting week for the Golden State Warriors. It really will be. I'm not here to predict what this week is going to mean to their playoff, chances, but they got to get through this week pretty darn well to have playoff chances. So it's a big week.
Well, it's taken Kerr all season to figure out who's good on his team and who's not. You know what I mean? It's like, I love Steve. He's a great guy. But, should it really have taken you till April to figure out that Trace Jackson Davis was better than Looney? Should it really have taken you to April to know that Moses Moody deserves minutes? The Warriors need Moses Moody to give them double-digit scoring off the bench. He got 10 off the bench last night. They won by 4. Podziemski's their best player as far as plus minus. He's got to play off the bench. And then you got Paul, you got Peyton, you got Looney. You can work those veterans in, but go with Trace Jackson Davis over Looney. And finally, Steve is doing that. 9 minutes for Looney, 28 yesterday for Trace Jackson Davis. Trace Jackson Davis gives you so much more. 7 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. He had a block. Draymond, I don't know what to say about Draymond. It's like sometimes he plays and he looks like the Draymond of old, and he looks like they could beat anybody in the playoffs, and then he looks disinterested, then he gets himself kicked out, but yesterday, you're right. 21 points, 6 rebounds, 11 assists, 6 steals. 11 assists and 6 steals and a block. So yeah, he was plus 13. He looked great. So I don't know. I hate to be like, this is much ado about nothing, because it's like, it sounds so, dismissive of the whole season. But in reality, the Warriors, what's happening here? What are we really talking about? They're going to get the 1 seed or the 2 seed, and they're going to get flushed. But it's been a challenging year.
It's been a really weird year, man. It's just a
weird year because Kerr doesn't know who to play. He was like, well, am I loyal to my old guys, or do I play the best players? And then, my younger guys are playing well. Do I play them? But then there's bumps in the road for all younger players.
Trying to serve 2 masters, neither master got served.
Right.
So it's like this, just the whole year has been this weird gray area of sort of stuck in between what you once were and what you might be. And it's weird. And then you just get Podziemski, right? Like, Podziemski is such a weird player, because anyone with a minuscule amount of basketball knowledge can tell, hey, this kid is like an all-court basketball player. He's really good at a lot of things. I don't know if he's great at anything beyond rebounding for his size, but he makes lineups better. But he's not necessarily a floor general. He's certainly not a shooter yet. He is not an A-plus defender, but he defends pretty well. Like, he's in the middle of a whole bunch of being good at this or not good. It's weird. This whole team is in the middle. The whole year has been in the middle. They're the middling Golden State Warriors.
I love Podziemski. He knows how to play. He rebounds consistently, but like, is he a 1? Is he kind of an undersized 2?
He's your first guard off the bench. Like, that's who he should be.
Yeah, he's a bench player. He's not a starter. He's a bench player, and he's a good one. What I love about him is he knows how to play, and he makes other guys better. The moment's not too big for him. He's not like, oh my God, I can't be out here with these guys. He plays with poise. He plays with smarts. He makes the right basketball play. He had 7 rebounds in 24 minutes last night, or yesterday. 12 points, 7 rebounds in 24 minutes for Pods. So he's been good. I mean, heck, if you gave the Warriors what they had, which wasn't he like the 18th pick, and Trace Jackson Davis was the 57th pick?
Mhm.
Okay, you got 18 and you got 57, and you're going into the draft, and you come away with Pods, Pajemski, and Trace Jackson Davis. You've done a really good job.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they did an exceptional job of maximizing those draft choices. Now it's just a matter of, what are you going to do? Is there a move that can be made that gets Golden State into the championship discussion again? Because they're really not. And they're with their sub 500 at home, and they're just, it's Steph and the Stephettes at this point. It's
Right.
or do you want that, or do you want, potentially to, run for a title? And I know that they want to run for a title, but it's a matter of, is there a move or moves out there this summer or this springtime that give you a chance?
I just think the Warriors get into this offseason and they look at it like this. It's Steph Curry, Jonathan Kuminga, Trace Jackson Davis, Brandon Pajemski, Moses Moody. Those are your untouchables. Everyone else is up for grabs. Anything. If you got, sorry, Draymond, sorry, Clay, this loyalty to the 3 of you guys crossing the finish line together is probably the wrong place to put the hopes and dreams of this franchise. And if a tough choice needs to be made in order to get better, this is the offseason in which they need to do it, or they will have wasted the end of what this is for Curry. And they got something with Kuminga, man. I mean, this kid's for real. And Trace Jackson Davis is going to be much better next year. And if Pajemski's much better, and if Moody keeps on coming, there's something here. But how to squeeze the last bit out of it is...
Well, we know exactly what they need to do. They need to somehow figure out a way to find somebody who wants Chris Paul's expiring monster contract and get the hell off of Wiggins. I mean, look at Wiggins yesterday. Wiggins was a circus. 2 of 12 from the field. He played 22 minutes, 4 points, 5 rebounds, no assists. He's just like... It's like I feel like Wiggins treats some of these NBA regular season games like he's just like on the treadmill. Like, I'll get my workout, get my leg, get my run in.
Larry, he's my least favorite player to watch in the NBA because we know how good he is, and then you see him not being that good more often than you even see him trying. I can't stand Andrew Wiggins. I can't stand him. If I never watched him play another game, I'd be good with it.
His nickname should be Coasts, because that's what he does. He just coasts. He's made millions and millions of dollars. And does he want to win? Yeah, he wants to win. Does he live to win?
No, I don't know. He doesn't.
Coasts.
I think he's down for whatever. Do you really want to win tonight? Sure. That's about as the man just. I just don't like Andrew Wiggins. Anyway, let's wrap up with this. As I see, we don't have many super chatting. That's all right. We'll accept generosities and tithing of paychecks a little bit later on as we get closer to the draft. But thank you very much.
We do have Dumpster Dan. Dumpster Fire Dan says, wide receiver is best player available at 31. Who you take? McConkey is my guy. I'm
not taking a wide receiver number 1. I'm not taking a wide receiver at 31 if I'm the Niners.
I could take a wide receiver at 31, but I'm not taking McConkey. McConkey had 2 touchdowns. 2. Like, there's 2 people on this show. There's like 2 touchdowns for McConkey. So he ran a great 40 time. Yeah, he's made some nice plays. There's some nice things to like there. But second overall for McConkey with 2 touchdowns. No, I need more there to be before I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm all in. As far as wide receiver, Marvin Harrison's going top 5. Malik Neighbors is going top 10. Roma Dunze is probably going top 10 top as 15. Well. I like Brian Thomas, the LSU kid, who's 6'3", 209, had 17 touchdowns. See, your guy had 2. My guy that I like had 17. That's
That's
quite a bit
15
better.
more, Larry. I've done the math on this. That's 15 more touchdowns.
15 more. But then like I think there's a bust category in this wide receiver class. Like McConkey, I really like, but I like him, as a second or third round pick, and he's going to get overdrafted based on his 40 time. Troy Franklin from Oregon, a little lean. Adonai Mitchell, I like a lot from Texas. Xavier Worthy is a speedster, but I don't love him. To me, it would have to be. I don't know that I see a. I guess I would say my first round wide receivers, if there were, there are three guys that I would look at in the first round at wide receiver. Brian Thomas, if he falls, and then if you wanted to, reach a little for Xavier Legette, he's 6'3", 230. He had a tremendous year at South Carolina. He's more of a one-year guy, though. I'll be honest there. And then Malachi Corley, who's got some special traits from Western Kentucky. I think those are the three receivers: Corley, Legette, and Brian Thomas Jr. If those guys are available at the end of the first round, you might consider it. But to me, it's an offensive line type draft or a defensive line type draft at 31. Give me the best defensive tackle. Give me the best offensive tackle, or center or guard. The guy that I'm starting to really, really like a lot is the center from West Virginia. Just from the standpoint of, this is a good center draft too. There's Jackson Powers Johnson, there's Graham Barton, but I like Zach Frazier from West Virginia. When I watch his film, it's just like, you got to be kidding me. He's like burying guys into the turf, and he could be a plug and play impact center, if there is such a thing, out of West Virginia. So, that's my thought. But yeah, there's if you're going wide receiver, Brian Thomas, Xavier Legette, Malachi Corley in round one.
Here's a question from Blood Moon. You guys going to go live during the draft? That's actually that's a good question. Larry, what are we going to do?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do during the draft because last year I just absolutely dominated with all kinds of videos during the draft. So I may go live at portions of the draft, maybe day one, maybe round 3, but I also will probably peel off of whatever live I'm doing to do like info videos on who the Niners just took and that kind of thing. So let's just bank on this. We'll be doing a lot on draft weekend.
It's a mix and match.
Yeah, we'll be doing a lot on draft weekend. And then Mark Graves says, if Ayuk is not signed by draft day and they pick a wide receiver at 31, do they trade him? They've said that they're going to only listen to offers through the end of the first round, and then they're not listening to offers. As I said, Mark, if you heard the beginning of the show, I really think that the play here is going to be draft. Don't, maybe you don't get Ayuk signed before the draft, but then go and draft a receiver higher than you think, and then sign Ayuk and trade Debo next April or next March. That would be my guess.
Larry, our final 4 is set. Purdue has made it. It's never going to sit right with me, but they've been pretty dominant and they deserve it. So congrats to the Purdue Boilermakers. I have no jokes for you today. NC State is in the Final Four as an 11 seed. Their first since 83, where Valvano was running around the court looking for somebody to hug. They bounced Duke to get there, so that's always a big deal for an ACC team. Alabama reaches its first Final Four ever, and UConn has just been blowing teams off the court for 2 straight NCAA tournaments right now. And Larry, if UConn wins a championship again this year, I think they are the newest entry into the phrase blue blood that we've seen. Normally, to be a blue blood, you have to have started from days of grainy black and white footage. They are a team that with its modern work has entered the conversation of blue blood. And with a championship, UConn has surpassed Indiana as an elite college program. It breaks my heart to say that, but it's the absolute truth. Indiana's been pretty irrelevant for 20 years, and UConn's been winning championships.
Yeah, the Connecticut's doing it this year with a different cast. It's amazing. Tristan Newton and these guys, and Klingon, the big man, Donovan Klingon, 7-2.
Oh my God, dude, the entry passes that he was getting, they just entry passing to just layups for him. I mean, it was.
I had Connecticut and Bama, Creighton, and who was my fourth team? But I'll tell you, the big man battle between Edie and Klingon could be fun to watch. Yeah, I had Creighton, Bama, UConn, and Houston. So I got 2 of my final 4. I had 14 of the 16 Sweet 16. It was one of the best brackets I've ever done. I'll say this. I was very surprised that Creighton went down. I was very surprised that Purdue got by Gonzaga. I thought the Zags were going to beat them at halftime of that game, and Purdue just boat raced them in the second half. So, I mean, Edie is on a mission. Alabama, though, is an amazing team. I think Alabama is really well coached. If you said, is there a team, what do you think of, I think that Alabama UConn game might be the best. That might be the national championship in the semi. I really like what I see out of Bama. I mean, if you watch Alabama so far, they're playing well. I mean, they got a bunch of guys.
My favorite player in this tournament, who I'm going to remember the most, is DJ Burns, the center from North Carolina State. I mean, this guy, he's just a big boy out there. Looks like he steals somebody's Lunchables when they're not looking. He's carrying 30 extra pounds, and I think he might just have the right body to put it on Edie and make him uncomfortable in that national semifinal. I think that is going to be maybe the best single remaining matchup in the Final Four. So you got to defend
Mark Sears, though, and Mark Sears has just been absolutely amazing. If you look at what he's been able to do in this tournament, I mean, 23 against Clemson, 18 against Carolina. He had 26, 12 rebounds and 6 assists against Grand Canyon University, which was an amazing game, by the way. That was an amazing game. Grand Canyon, Alabama. But Alabama's just getting it done, man. Alabama, I think they're well coached. They got a number of guys who are stepping up. I do expect UConn to beat Bama, though. I think that's probably what's going to happen. And then I would probably take Purdue. I'd probably take the 2-1s, UConn and Purdue, national championship on Monday night.
And then I'll be rooting against UConn like I cash tuition checks in Stores, Connecticut. Let's go UConn if that needs to happen. But look, it's been a wildly unforgettable NCAA tournament. There's not a single all-time memory that this tournament has borne for us yet. Not one. Not one. There have been a couple of good games and overtime games, but there's not a single tingle goes up your spine forever talking about it memory from this NCAA tournament yet. And then, over on the women's side of the bracket, I'm just telling you right now, like, I'm so tired of LSU. It's coach. I'm ready for that storyline to be over with. Like Caitlin Clark, she can shoot it. I get it. Let's get this game out of the way and just enough LSU, Caitlin Clark, blah, 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 blah. Like, okay, we get it. It's enough.
I mean, I don't even know of what you speak. I mean, this women's tournament is a rumor to me. I've never watched. I never have watched. I never will watch. It's just I watch sporting events that I enjoy, and I watch sporting events for athleticism. And I like, if I wanted to watch an under the rim game, I could watch high school ball. So I'm not against the ladies. I've got a daughter. God bless her and God bless their tournament. I can't say anything about it because I just don't watch it.
They didn't even get the 3-point lines right up in Portland. They didn't lay the court down right enough for them. Like, come on, get that right. Get that right. Anyway, you're going to want to get these 3-point lines right. I mean, the women deserve this too, Tommy. You'd never see anything like this in the men's tournament. They would have measured these things. They would have measured twice and cut once. And these ladies deserve a little bit better. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't like that LSU coach. She's a little terse, if you don't mind me saying.
You know what I really love about the tournament is it gives me chances to watch more film on guys who have torn their ACL. I like it. I'm in, I'm out. it's a quick hitter for me, Damon and Lowry. And I'll tell you, I've seen some people here that would be very underrated by scouts if they just blew out an ACL or a quad, maybe an Achilles. But good old Trent Baalke's getting ready for the draft. And I'll tell you right now, I've talked to Coach Peterson. I ran out my entire defensive staff because I couldn't take any blame. But I'll tell you, watch out for the Jags, okay? We got Eric Armstead, and we're coming. We're coming. All right, I just want everybody to know. Eric Armstead is a Jaguar, damn it. And he's a Jaguar because of this guy right here, Trent freaking Baalke.